You know that sinking feeling when you open a bill and your eyes automatically search for the decimal point, hoping there's been a mistake? That's what Porsche owners across America are experiencing right now. As of August 1st, 2025, a brand new 15% tariff on EU-made parts has kicked in, replacing the 25% tariff that was in effect earlier this year. If you own a Porsche, your maintenance costs haven't just crept up. They've leapt like a launch control start in a 911 Turbo. We're about to break down exactly how much more you're paying, which models are hit the hardest, and 3 strategies you can use to soften the blow. And if you're a Porsche fan, stick with me until the end, because the savings tips are worth more than a new set of brake pads. Here's the problem no one's talking about. Porsche's supply chain is basically a bullseye for tariffs. Every single Porsche sold in the US depends on a constant flow of parts from Europe. Not just the big-ticket items like engines and transmissions, but the little stuff too. Clips, seals, filters, and electronics. And when you rely completely on foreign-sourced components, you're completely exposed when those components suddenly cost more to bring in. Other brands like BMW and Mercedes have US assembly plants that can build cars here with a mix of local and imported parts. Some of those parts dodge tariffs entirely, but Porsche, they've never built cars in the States. That means if it says made in Germany, it's now coming with a new, steeper price tag. The impact isn't just about the sticker shock at service time. Tariffs affect every level of the ownership experience. Dealerships have to pay more for their parts inventory. Independent mechanics can't get cheaper OEM alternatives because they're importing the same way. Even collision repair costs jump because body panels and trim pieces are just as tariffed as performance parts. And it's not just about Porsche as a company. Reuters reports Porsche's operating margin dropped to 8.6% in Q1 2025, and the tariff impact for April-May alone was estimated at around 100 million euros. For you, that translates to your service advisor having some very awkward conversations. Conversations that end with you paying more for the exact same car you owned last month. The result? Porsche ownership in the US just got noticeably more expensive overnight. And we're not talking about optional upgrades here. This is about keeping your car roadworthy. And before we move forward, let me ask you something. Are you already seeing higher bills? Comment below and subscribe for more Porsche tips. So what does this look like when it actually lands on your bill? Let's start with the 992 Carrera. Those iconic brakes aren't cheap in the best of times. Pre-tariff, you could expect to pay between $500 to $700 for pads. Today, that range has shifted to $600 to $875. That's an extra $100 to $175. And no, they don't stop the car any better for the price. The 718 GTS 4.0 is hit just as hard. Oil filters that were $50 to $80 now cost $60 to $100. It's one of the smallest and simplest parts on the car, but multiply that increase across every service item and the total climbs quickly. The Cayenne gets it worst of all. A battery replacement used to be $400 to $600. Now you're looking at $480 to $750 before labor. Add the installation and you're well into 4 figures just to keep the car starting reliably. And it doesn't stop there. A service visit that used to be $2,000 is now easily hitting $2,500. That's a 25% jump without any added value. Just the same parts, now with a tariff surcharge. Remember, 59% of Porsche owners chose the brand for the flat-6 engine. That joy is still there every time you turn the key. But the moment it needs brakes, filters, or a new battery, the thrill starts costing more than ever before. Moving forward, the numbers I'm going to tell you will make even seasoned owners wince. The easiest way to see the real impact is to zoom out. Forget single parts for a moment. Think about what it costs to keep a Porsche healthy for a full year. For a 992 Carrera, the annual maintenance range before all this was around $2,000 to $3,000. that covered regular wear items like brakes, clutch work, filters, and fluids. Now, the jump in part prices means a $600 brake job is $750, a $1,000 clutch replacement is $1,250, and everything else on the list has gone up by similar margins. By the end of the year, that $2,500 budget you set aside could easily hit $3,200. The 718 Cayman GTS 4.0 sits in a similar maintenance range. You're swapping $50 filters for $60 ones, $200 spark plugs for $250 sets, and these increases stack with every visit to the shop. Owners who used to shrug off minor service costs are now feeling them in a way they didn't before. The Cayenne is the heavyweight here. Annual upkeep already ran $2,500 to $4,000. But when a $400 battery becomes $480 and a set of $1,000 tires becomes $1,250, you can see how fast the numbers climb. Even if you spread those expenses out, you're still looking at a noticeable jump. Meanwhile, brands like BMW can sidestep some of this pain because their US-built models use more domestic parts. The Corvette C8, with its US production and no EU parts tariffs, keeps its maintenance closer to $1,500 a year. But that's the trade-off. You get the lower running costs, but you don't get a Porsche. And for those who own one, the math is clear. The joy of ownership hasn't gone away. It's just gotten more expensive to keep it going. The impact doesn't stop with individual owners. It's reshaping the entire Porsche service and repair market. According to Kelley Blue Book, we're looking at an additional 4 to 8% increase in parts prices on top of the tariffs. That's because suppliers, distributors, and shops are all adjusting their own margins to cope with higher costs. In other words, the tariff is just the first wave. The rest of the price creep comes from the industry trying to protect its own bottom line. Independent Porsche shops aren't immune. They still have to buy OEM parts from Germany, which means they're hit with the exact same duties as dealerships. That "I'll go indie and save money" strategy still works to a degree, but the gap between dealer and independent pricing has narrowed. It's also changing the way enthusiasts approach ownership. Some are delaying non-essential repairs, hoping prices will stabilize. Others are hunting for aftermarket alternatives or used parts, though Porsche owners tend to be picky about authenticity. Meanwhile, Japanese brands are almost untouched by this mess. Without EU tariffs to contend with, their parts pricing stays steady. For them, this is a competitive advantage. They can sell on the promise of predictable maintenance costs, while European brands grapple with constant increases. The bigger risk for Porsche: long-term ownership perception. If prospective buyers think maintenance is spiraling out of control, it could shift more of the market toward competitors. But for now, demand for that badge on the hood is strong enough to keep people in the fold. They're just gritting their teeth a little harder when the service bill arrives. And that's why the next part of this video is so important. It's about how to survive this new normal without draining your bank account. Now that the tariffs are here and the higher prices are baked in, the big question is, what can you actually do about it? You can't make US trade policy disappear, but you can make choices that keep your costs from spiraling out of control. Here are 3 strategies Porsche owners are already using to soften the blow. If you know you've got a brake job coming in the next year, get those pads now. A set that was $600 just a few weeks ago is now at $750, and there's no reason to think it'll get cheaper. Even if you don't need them immediately, you can store them in your garage until the time comes. Same goes for smaller service items. Porsche Barrington was selling oil filters at $50 before the price increase. Even if you're paying $60 now, buying a few in advance means you're not at the mercy of whatever the price is 6 months from now. The JDM crowd has done this for years with rare parts. They buy ahead, keep spares, and avoid price shocks entirely. Brand new OEM isn't always the only answer. On Renlist, it's not hard to find lightly used brake sets for around $300, half the post-tariff dealer price. For non-safety critical parts, gently used components can be a big money saver. If you're in the market for a car, consider going certified pre-owned. According to TrueCar, CPO warranties cover most major repairs. That $750 battery replacement, if it fails under warranty, you're not paying a dime. It's a way to lock in predictable costs, at least for the duration of the coverage. Now, if you've got the tools and patience, basic maintenance can save you hundreds. A DIY oil change on a 718 can put $200 back in your pocket in labor costs alone. There's no shortage of detailed tutorials online, and for simpler jobs, it's a realistic option. For bigger jobs or peace of mind, consider an extended service plan like Endurance. It's an upfront cost, but when a $1,250 tire bill or $1,500 brake service shows up, you'll be glad you're covered. You can't avoid every extra dollar, but by combining these approaches, you can at least slow the bleed. And that's what we'll cover in the next chapter: the reality of Porsche ownership in 2025 and how to keep it worth every penny. Let's be honest, nobody ever bought a Porsche because it was cheap to run. This brand has always been about something bigger. The way the steering weights up mid-corner, the surge of power when that flat six hits its stride, the precision, the heritage, the feeling that you're driving something truly special. But in 2025, that special feeling comes with a bigger price tag than ever. The tariffs are here, and the price hikes are not a short-term blip. Once parts get more expensive, they rarely go back down. That means we're in a new era where Porsche ownership takes a little more planning and maybe a little more discipline to enjoy without stress. The good news, you're not powerless. Stocking up on parts, buying smart with CPO, and tackling what you can yourself will all help keep the numbers in check. Yes, the cost is higher, but the car in your garage is the same masterpiece it was before August 1st. And that's the key. Porsche ownership has never been purely about the money. It's about the connection, the thrill, and the satisfaction of knowing you're driving something built with passion. If you're smart about how you maintain it, you can keep enjoying all of that without letting the new normal drain your bank account. Because at the end of the day, the real cost would be giving up the experience entirely. And for most Porsche owners, that's not even on the table. So, tariffs or not, the thrill of driving a Porsche is still worth fighting for. Be smart, plan ahead, and you can keep the joy without letting the bills ruin it. If you found this helpful, hit like, subscribe, and share your own cost-saving tips in the comments, because every Porsche owner could use a few right now.